Leila Rao here with the next installment of our LIA100 stories. And with me today is Silvana Wasitova, who is an experienced Agile coach who incredibly coaches in 4 languages. So we're really looking forward to hearing about her journey. Welcome, Silvana.
Thank you. Thank you, Leila. Nice to be here.
Awesome. So as I mentioned, I really do want to hear about your journey, and I would love to hear about the background and the path that led you to coaching in 4 languages.
All right. So let's start with that first. I'm half Czech, half Indonesian. So the world is my oyster, and I really feel that way. It's not just a phrase for me. And yes, I started life in Europe. I grew up in Indonesia, moved to Canada, moved to California, moved to Germany, to France, to Switzerland, and have been in Agile ways of working for the past 14 years and coaching the last 10. The languages, well, my mom being Czech, my dad being Indonesian, I speak Czech and Indonesian. I acquired English along the way because that was my university studies were in English, and then my professional work has been mostly in English. And along the way, I also acquired French. So I have coached and Agile coach clients in English, French, Czech, and Indonesian. And wow. It is, yeah, thank you. And it is incredible that even with all those languages, with the multiples of countries that go behind that, people are people, humans are humans. The challenge of changing from traditional mindset to more inclusive, collaborative mindset is pretty similar, regardless of country and culture and language.
That's extraordinary. I think you're one of the few people who have experienced the differences and similarities for yourself. So can you tell us more about your journey? It's absolutely fascinating. Did you make a conscious decision to become an Agilist, or was that something that just happened for you? Do you remember your first time working in an Agile project?
Yeah, I think most people remember if they change dramatically. And what happened for me, I was a traditional project manager before. And in California, I started to work for Yahoo in 2005, just at the time, 2005, when Yahoo was undergoing the Agile transformation. And it was just approved to become the official program for the whole company, or at least starting with the teams in California. So I was among the first teams who had the Scrum training and started working with Scrum, or in Agile way, learning things as we go, learning story points as we go, learning collaboration, closer alignment with other team, closer than what we were doing before. And before that, I was a project manager, and I knew about alignment and having the same focus. But definitely there was a shift, a change in how we do it, the focusing on delivering small increments. That certainly was a big change. And then we took it from there. My Yahoo teams, I moved through several teams within my 5 years there. Within my Yahoo teams, we credited Scrum and Agile way of working with many of our successes. Many people said we could not have succeeded had we done it the traditional way, or the old way that we used to work. So that was the first time. And then when I left Yahoo, I started coaching other companies on their Agile journey.
Did you make a conscious decision to shift from being a project manager to an Agile coach?
It was not necessarily my decision. The opportunity arose and I jumped on it. I could have not jumped on it, but the whole company was quite eager in creating the opportunity, making the trainings available. So quite a few of us were within that first wave, and I mean within Yahoo at that time, between 2005 and 2008. 200 teams went through the transformation. So it was a big thing. But being in the first wave, or one of the first few teams, I remember the excitement, the curiosity, what is this? Like, is it really going to make a difference? Pretty much the same statements that my clients today make. Well, I was there, and then finding out that, yes, it makes a difference, and these are the differences. And so the initial step, there was an open door and I went through it. But then the embracing and the really taking it to heart, the really practicing it, the practice of inclusivity, of encourage every voice, all of that became more and more real, not only because it's part of the Agile Manifesto, but because we really experienced how much more productive it was for us, for me, for my teams, and we appreciate the difference.
I think there is a moment for all of us where we internalize Agile values, where it goes from something that we do to this is just who we are.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And if I look back, I think that internalization probably started in my third year, so it was not automatic, and it was not a simple change like that. But then it just became stronger from then on, and like today, when I say, just yesterday, I told someone, I really want to hear what you have to say, and the guy actually stood back and said, "Really?" I said, "Yes, really." And that was it was a moment of, I'm living in this truth, and this is part of who I am now. But it was part of how we encourage the respecting each other, the collaborating with each other, and hearing every voice.
I had an experience with an Agile coach, and I think you had something similar. When we do a retrospective or something like that, we focus on praising and recognizing each other's values. I've had people, especially women, come to me afterwards and say, almost in tears, "Thank you. No one ever told me I was good at something."
Yes. And something similar to this, last weekend I was at an Agile Coach Camp, which is a gathering of coaches, and there were about 80 of us here. And on the last day, I think 4 women came to me and said, "Thank you for exemplifying for us what a strong, opinionated, and still kind and professional and resourceful a woman can be." And that was just so sweet to hear that they were seeing something for them, a path for them, an encouragement for them in just how I interacted with various people.
And I think it testifies obviously also to your unique value, but also the value of having role models, of not having to create your own path from nothing, like being able to see something that you can learn from other women especially.
Yes.
And that, I think, leads me very nicely to my next question about the Agile community. You've been part of this community for a long time. What have you seen the differences in where we were to where we are?
Well, comparing now with, let's say, 10 years ago, now there are more of us. So the numbers, there's more practitioners, there's more ScrumMasters, Agile coaches. Our thinking has evolved. I'm thinking DevOps is something that is now embraced as a good practice, whereas it was an anomaly, curiosity 10 years ago. So we have evolved in many ways for the better. In some ways, there still is. We don't see enough women. We don't see enough women either appreciated or either being given room or having made their own room, their own space, found their own voice. And that still feels like, yeah, that's still going on. As a community, we've grown, yes. Even our practices have deepened, our understandings have deepened, yes.
So as you can imagine, I want to talk more about why has it been so hard for women, because as we discussed earlier, so many of the attributes of good Agile practitioners are stereotypically feminine: empathy, collaboration, all of those things. So why has it been so hard, do you think?
I have pondered on this. Some of the things that I'm seeing are still, so there are patterns that pre-existed agility, the patterns of within some communities or some let's say religions. You see the women doing the hard work, the men being in the decision-making position, seat at the table to make decisions, uh, decisions about women's bodies and that kind of thing. And in some agile circles, I see that pattern recurring: women doing the work, women doing the behind the scenes, and yet when it comes time to being in the spotlight or fighting for the spotlight, then I see more men doing that. I see more men, for example, putting submissions in for talks and conferences, and I see more men selected. Okay, you can say, okay, it's a percentage, but not as many women come up and speak up, or maybe we don't encourage as many women to come up and speak up. So we need more visibility. We need to be more conscious of not just creating artificial platforms, but to actually recognize the women who already make a difference or who already brings something to the table and shine spotlight on it, on them.
Something like practice what we preach with our clients.
Practicing what we preach, and for myself, I'm conscious of being a role model and example for not just people around me or the Scrum Masters and Agile coaches within my circle of influence, but specifically for women around me. And I consciously take time and effort to, for example, just this past weekend, to encourage women to just take a strength position and roar, just to feel that this is okay, that this is not an aberration, that you're not less of a woman, of a person, if you take more space, more voice, more loudness. Yeah.
We're so conditioned to be polite, to listen, to defer, and some of those are hard habits to break.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it's okay to be polite and firm. One of the things I taught 4 women 2 weekends ago is that it's okay to look at somebody in the eyes and smile and say no.
That resonates very much with me because, we talk with our clients about you have to be able to say no. Not everything is equal priority, but saying no, especially to people that you like and respect, it's very hard. I still find it very hard. I'm better with people that I don't like, or with people I like. My instinct is to say, of course, yes, even if it's not in my best interest. So I really resonate with that. And I think that takes us really well to the next part of our conversation about what would be your advice for women who are still struggling with all of these internalized barriers, as well as this new generation of women who are coming into a very different world than the one that I think we're more used to.
To all women out there, yay for showing up. Yay for being who you are, doing what you do, and take the time to look in the mirror and say, I'm okay. I'm enough. I bring good things to my client, to my situation, and I'm good. And start with appreciating yourself. Others will appreciate you more as well.
That is incredibly compelling message. And I almost wish we could play it for everybody every day. You obviously have a remarkable gift for communication. Can you talk a little bit about some of the transformations you've seen among people and women who have been through your training, your client work, and also maybe your community work within the Agile world? Because it sounds like you've had an impact on a lot of women. What have you seen in their journeys?
I can speak of specific individuals. There's this one young lady who came to Agile in Europe that I organized 2 years ago. And it was in August. And then sometime in September, October, I was sitting in a cafe, in a restaurant, in a different country, different city, different country, different context, everything. And as I'm sitting at this restaurant, a guy from 3 tables over keeps looking this way. And finally he comes by and says, you organized this conference. It changed my life. And I'm in conversation with that young lady, and it changed her life too. And she's now organizing conferences, and she's now giving talks. She has never done that 3 months before. It was such an incredible, wow. That's what happens when we unleash the power that lay dormant within her. She had it. I did not insert anything into her. I created an environment where she felt safe to try a few things, propose open space sessions, get into conversations, and then walk away 3 days later saying, I can do this, I can do more, and did it. That was so awesome. And there's many like that.
That's incredible. So it starts with each of us learning to appreciate ourselves and using the abilities we have to make the space safer for other people to discover their own voices.
Yes.
Okay, so I think this is a conversation that we could continue for quite a while, but I do want to ask you about bringing it back full circle. What's next for you professionally and personally? It sounds like you've had a long career that covered a few different things. So what is next for you?
What is next for me is actually professionally within the context of my current client, we are undergoing a huge transformation. I mean, every transformation feels big because it's a big change from what was to what we wish or what we want to achieve. And sometimes a transformation is also big because of the number of people involved, the number of employees, departments, and so on. So with my current client, we have just embarked on this, and it's an exciting journey. And of course, the proof is in the pudding. So I look forward to a year from now, be able to look back and say, and we did this, and we did this, accomplished this. And of course, it's too early to tell today.
This has been an incredible conversation, Silvana. I wish I met you 10 years ago. Because I know I certainly could have used your advice back then, but I'm glad we got a chance to meet now.
Pleasure having this chat.
Thank you.